What's going on, everyone? Happy New Year! Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the LNBE podcast, where LNBE stands for literally nothing but everything. I'm Mike Rispoli, and it's a new year, new me. Unless you're like me and you woke up and realized, oh, I'm just the same dumbass that I was on December 31st. So let's just run it back. But with every new year comes new possibilities, right? When one door closes, another door opens, and now we're closing the door on 2024 to embark on what's to come in 2025. And I know, I'm sorry I took a break and that this podcast was more inconsistent than a herpes outbreak. Are those inconsistent? I actually wouldn't know. Anybody got herpes? 64% of the global population has it, so one of you degenerates is lying if you're saying that you don't. But I am sorry that this was a little bit inconsistent towards the end there for a little bit, and that I did take a little bit of a hiatus. But the truth in the matter is, honestly, I just needed a break. Oh, well, what could you have possibly had going on that you needed a break, considering you literally have nothing going on? Well, let's get personal, because that's just it. I was going through a little bit of a funk here. And honestly, it sucks being unemployed. Like, you think it's great when it first happens because you're just like, oh my God, I have so much time. And then the longer it happens, you're just like, oh my God, I have so much time. What the hell actually is my life? And now I kind of understand why 75-year-old Terry in accounting hasn't fully retired yet and decides to waste my time, ask me how to open up a PDF, knowing that he'd rather annoy me because if he hears Barbara ask him to clean out the garage one more time, realizing that that's what the rest of his life is going to consist of, he'll come to terms with the fact that there actually is a use for that loose rope and three-legged chair that's eating up space in his garage. Because having nothing but time just becomes boring and mundane. Like, yeah, I go out and I hang out with friends and stuff, but it's bizarre not really having a sense of structure. And with that, I just kind of lost focus and felt disorganized. And the thought of having to come on here and just do 20 minutes, I'm not going to lie, it seemed daunting. Because I also felt like I just had nothing really to talk about. So for me personally, I just needed a break to reset and refocus. So I was like, you know what? Just give yourself until after the holidays just to kind of get your mind right. And that's exactly what I did. So here we are now. But speaking of the holidays, I hope everybody's holiday season was a good one and that you all enjoyed maybe having some time off, or getting together with friends and family, whatever it was that you were doing. But was it me? Or did it kind of not really feel like the holiday season this year? I don't know if it was just because Thanksgiving was so late, because it was only a month of like the Christmas spirit, but to me, it just didn't really feel like that general Christmas joy feeling. Like even television commercials didn't seem to really embrace it to me. Did Starbucks even do their Christmas cup? If they did, I totally missed that. But I don't know, am I just crazy? I can't be the only one who felt that way. I don't know. I think part of it for me was also, it was just the end of the year. And I was realizing that 2024 didn't really go the way that I had in mind. And I shifted my focus to that rather than trying to embrace the joy of what the holiday spirit was. And I just kind of harbored on the nonsense. Like, it's funny because in general, and I swear to God, you can look this up, that if you Google how many bad days you have per year, the results vary anywhere from 30 to 60 days. And granted, this is all dependent on people's situations because everybody has different extenuating circumstances or whatever it may be. But for the average American, that's at least 2 months. So that's about what? 16% of the year? So that means that about 84% of the year is actually pretty friggin' good. I mean, not to totally just make this about me, but I mean, hey, it is my podcast, so fuck you. No, I'm kidding. But I don't know, for me personally, I was just kind of like, what the hell was truly so bad about 2024? Like, I was thinking about this recently. Like, what was so bad about this year? Oh, boo-hoo. Another year gone by and your dating life ended the same way that it started. Alone. I got laid off a couple times. So what? Those are just two things. So, I don't know. How about we just think about some of the positives of 2024? Let's do some self reflecting here. For starters, I started this podcast. That was something that I never thought I had the balls to do, but here I am. My sister got engaged. That's something to look forward to. One of my best friends got engaged. That's another thing to look forward to. Both of their weddings are in the same month. That's going to be nuts for me. Two of my other best friends who are married to each other are expecting their first child. Like, come on, this is some exciting shit. Like, there is so much to look forward to in 2025. And what did I do? I was selfish and I thought about my own issues and was just harboring on the negatives of what was 2024. So don't be like me. Let's flip this script around. What's something that you guys set out to do that you actually did achieve if you guys were in the same boat as me, just harboring on like the negatives, right? And it could literally be anything. Did you take a trip that you always wanted to? Did you put down the cigarette or the vape for the final time? Men, did you last 4 pumps instead of 3? Like, what was it that you actually set out to do that you achieved? Focus on that. Don't focus on the bullshit. Because that's just no way to go throughout life. You're just going to get yourself into a trap. And that's what happened to me. That's how I got into the state that I was. That's why I took a little bit of a break. And I was like, you know what? No. Fuck this. My life is pretty fucking awesome. My situation could be a hell of a lot worse. So no, you know what? I'm not going to think this way. I'm not going to just harbor on the bullshit. I'm going to look forward to the positives. There's so much more to look forward to than there is. Like, that's why I think people tend to become depressed because they're always just thinking about the what ifs, or they're thinking about like what they could have done differently, or how their life just hasn't panned out. Like, life is a game. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be wins and losses. And the wins are great, but for every loss or bad situation that happens to you, there's always a lesson to be had, right? I mean, as cliche as this sounds, you really are the character within your own story. So the choices that you make is for your own character development. And depending on if it's a good or a bad choice, that's something that you got to decide for yourself. But I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. You also don't want to knowingly put yourself into a bad situation. At that point, that's not just part of the plot, that's just your own stupidity. But if there is a bit of a loss, then you got to do what you got to do to get back on the path that's right for you. And it's going to take baby steps to get to that final product. It's kind of like going to the gym, right? Oh boy, who doesn't put on weight after the holidays? I mean, that's why everybody's New Year's resolution is to lose weight, right? Because you realize that for the last 2 months you were just such a gluttonous fuck. And we all know calories don't count on Jesus' birthday, because back then no one counted calories. So you get yourself into a coma, you feel like shit, you're just like, oh, time to get back to being healthy again. And then if you're like me, you also took a break from the gym, so you realize that you can't go full force or you burn yourself out. So you go about half to maybe 3/4 of the intensity and you work your way back up. But it's not going to take one day at the gym to get back to where you were. It's going to take a little bit of time and consistency to get back to that same level that you were at. And if you have a loss in your life, you got to have that same mentality where it's just like, okay, here's a little bit of a drawback. What do I need to do to get back on track? And how do I maintain that? So let's use me as the example, right? Like this past year, I got laid off, and that was my loss of the year, right? But now I've got all this free time to think and figure shit out. So what is it that I need to do in order to get my life back on track here? Yeah, I can apply for jobs, I can do XYZ. But you know what I realized during all this time off? I had all this time to think about stuff. And the path that I chose to go into career-wise was marketing. And you know what I realized? I fucking hate marketing. Dude, I can't even promote myself with this pod. What the fuck made me think I wanted to promote some cunt CEO? Like, granted, I know that marketing a podcast is so much different than trying to market for a company, but I've also just never really been a social media person. And that is on my agenda for 2025, which is to get better behind the screen to kind of help promote this friggin' thing. I was doing it a little bit in 2024, but I wasn't consistent with it. So going into 2025, that is one of the goals that I'm setting for myself with this podcast. Am I going to start doing it with this episode? No. If you're looking for somebody to lead by example, you came to the wrong place. I'm kidding. Like I said earlier, it's baby steps. I'm just getting back into this after a month hiatus or however long I took. So give me some time. I will do it. But right now, I've just been honestly trying to figure out what other fields I could go into and what I actually do want to do with my life. So honestly, for me, this period of time off from work has actually been kind of a blessing. So for anybody struggling right now, what is the lesson that you need to learn in the path that you took that might not have gone in the direction that you thought it was going to go? Every challenge has its solution. So what life problem are you dealing with right now that God, the universe, whatever it is that you believe is trying to teach you? And for me, I learned that I'm just like, okay, I hated the path that I was down. So now what's the career that I want to go into? And I have the time to explore the options. And you know what? It's totally okay if you don't have your life figured out. But it's what you do with the losses in your life that matter. Do you want to take that loss and harbor on it and be a miserable piece of shit for the rest of your life? Or do you want to take the loss on the chin, get up and learn from the mistake? So for me, the mistake was getting into marketing. Now I have the time to kind of change my career and do something that's going to make me happier. So if you weren't happy with your 2024, what's something that is going to make you happy in 2025? Because if you keep continuously going down the same path that you were in, it's never going to make you happy. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing twice and expecting a different result. And I know that's an Einstein quote, but it makes perfect sense as to why he said that. Because as a physicist, numbers are always conclusive. The dude was always working with formulas and math. If 2 plus 2 did not equal 4, he probably looked at that and went, what the actual fuck did I do wrong here? And that same shit applies to life. Like, if you consistently do the same thing over and over and you're just not happy with the result, then what is it that you need to change to make the outcome better? So you know what? Fuck all the haters who can't stand the whole new year, new me bullshit. It is a new year. It is a new you. Now, with all of this said, if you are happy with your life and there's nothing that you need to change, then keep doing you. But for people like me who weren't happy in their situation and realize that they need to make a change in order to get to where they do want to be in life, all of this applies. But all right, that's totally enough of my soapbox bullshit. So anyways, I think what I last left you guys off with was kind of a cliffhanger. So this was like a month ago at this point, so bear that in mind. But long story short, from what I remember, this dude came into the bar that I was hanging at with my friend, and the bartender went up to him and he was just like, oh, can I get you anything? And he was like, no, not right now. I'm actually waiting on a friend. And then it's about like 30 minutes later and the friend walks in and she's gorgeous. And if you saw what he looks like, we're just like, what the hell is she doing with this guy? So she sits next to him and then they order some drinks. It was weird because like his body language was definitely showing off that this was date vibes, but her body language was definitely showing that she wasn't really interested in the guy. So we're just thinking, oh, it's just a like Tinder date gone bad or whatever it is. So when there's a lull in the conversation, the bartender, who was also one of my buddies, goes over to them and asks them just simple questions like, oh, how long have you guys been married? And the guy goes, oh, I'm actually on my second wife looking for a third, winks at her. And she's just like, yeah, I'm happily unmarried. And we were like, oh, snap. So then like 20 minutes later, they leave. About an hour later after they leave, the bartender gets a call on the bar phone. And he comes over to tell me, he's just like, hey, that was that chick that was here earlier. And we're like, oh shit, what did she want? And my buddy was like, I don't know. She asked me if the guy tipped me enough. And we're like, all right, that's kind of an interesting question. So what did you say back? He was like, I don't know. He tipped me like $10 on a $30 tab, like nothing crazy. And then about an hour after that call, she shows up, orders a Coke, and was just like, hey, please don't affiliate me with this guy. That was supposed to be a business like meeting. I don't know what we were doing here, XYZ. And she's like, how much for the Coke? And he was like, yeah, it's just a Coke, whatever, it's on me. And she's just like, okay, whatever, just please take this tip and like don't remember that I was ever affiliated with this guy. Leaves a 20 on the bar. So then my friend goes over, takes the tip, and he realized that it wasn't just a 20, it was a pile of 20s. And that this chick literally paid him $100 to never remember her face again. One of the weirdest scenarios that I've ever seen happen at a bar. So, I don't know. Hopefully the cliffhanger was worth it if you found the story interesting. I sure as hell did. But another thing that I wanted to bring up was, did anybody listen to the band that I recommended last time? I think it was Asphalt Ballet. Did anybody check out that band? Because I really love that album. I think it's fantastic. And I was thinking, going along with the segment of bands that I know that I don't know if anybody else knows, is there's a group out there called Shakra, Shakra. I think they're from Switzerland, I want to say. And this is kind of an older band. They initially, I think, came out in the 90s. And from what I remember that I looked up, I think their like big claim to fame was when they went on tour with a band called Great White, which is probably another band not a lot of people my age, if you're 28 or younger, would know. And their big hit was a song called Once Bitten, Twice Shy. It came out back in the 80s. They were a part of that 80s hair metal scene. And it's actually sad. I think I saw a couple months ago that the lead singer to that band passed away. So I can't remember what his name is, but shout out to Great White. Rest in peace to your singer. But Shakra is kind of like that 80s hair metal style music. They really actually kind of remind me of Cinderella. They're just a little bit more like heavy. They don't have really many ballads. They did recently, I think last year, come out with a song called Angel's Landing, which I think you could consider a ballad. But the dude doesn't use any clean vocal. I don't know if that's just the dude's natural voice. It's kind of interesting. But very Tom Kiefer, or Kiefer, Tom Queefer. I have no idea how you pronounce that guy. The lead singer from Cinderella. Really reminiscent of that guy. But if you check out the band, Angel's Landing is a really cool song. I really love the guitar solos in it. They have another song called The Way It Is. That's a really cool song. Another song I like by them is called High Noon. So if you like that style of music, definitely check out this band. I'd say I'm a fan. It's interesting because Switzerland or Sweden, like those countries are still rocking that 80s hair metal. So if you guys are into that style of music, definitely check out some of the bands that are coming out of those countries. There's actually a lot of good stuff that you probably haven't heard because they are foreign and they probably haven't had like a #1 hit in the US. So I don't know, maybe just something to keep in mind. But yeah, let me know if you guys listen to Asphalt Ballet. Let me know if you guys listen to the band Shakra. Also, please let me know what artists that you think are underrated or kind of unknown. I am interested in hearing what you guys think of and what you guys are listening to. So, all right, with that, I hope everybody's start to the new year is fantastic. Don't forget that if you want to reach out to me, you can email lnbemedia@gmail.com. And also, I know there really hasn't been much activity, but also please check me out on my socials at the LNBE Pod on TikTok and Instagram. All right, guys, Happy New Year. I will catch up with you guys on Tuesday. Have a good weekend.